He sat in the back row of the school auditorium wearing a jacket that didn't fit right and shoes that had seen too many winters. Nobody looked at him twice. That was exactly the point. Around him, other parents settled into their seats. Some in work clothes, some in gym wear, some checking phones. The auditorium filled with the comfortable noise of an ordinary Thursday evening. A school talent show, paper programs, folding chairs scraping against a wooden floor. The man in the back row had a name that appeared on the covers of business magazines. He ran a company with 11,000 employees across 4 countries. Last year, a financial publication had estimated his net worth at somewhere north of $3 billion. Tonight, he was wearing a second-hand jacket from a thrift store on the edge of town. His phone was a basic model he had purchased with cash. He had taken the bus. His name was James Calloway, and he was here because of his daughter. Emma was 9 years old. She was going to play the violin on that stage in 40 minutes. And she had no idea that the quiet man in the worn jacket at the back of the room was her father. She hadn't seen him in 2 years. James had not chosen to disappear from Emma's life. That was the version he told himself. The more honest version was harder to look at directly. After his divorce from Laura, the custody agreement gave him every other weekend and 1 evening a week. In the first year, he kept every visit. He showed up with a plan every time: museums, parks, cooking projects at his penthouse apartment. Emma was polite and quiet and looked at him the way children look at someone they're still deciding about. Then the company went through a crisis. A major acquisition failed. 2 board members resigned in the same month. A regulatory investigation opened. James worked 20-hour days for 6 months straight. He rescheduled 1 weekend, then another. He missed 3 Tuesday evenings in a row. He sent gifts instead, good ones, expensive ones, and told himself he would make it up to her when things settled. Things settled. He didn't make it up. One weekend he arrived at Laura's house and Emma didn't come to the door. Laura stood in the doorway with a look that wasn't angry, which was somehow worse than anger. She said Emma had asked to go to her friend's birthday party instead. She had stopped expecting him to come. That sentence had lived in James's chest like a splinter for 16 months. The idea came to him on a flight back from London. He was sitting in first class, reading a report, when his assistant forwarded him a school newsletter from Laura's email. She still sent those occasionally, out of what he suspected was a mixture of courtesy and quiet guilt on her own part. The newsletter mentioned the upcoming talent show. Emma Calloway, 3rd grade, violin. James put the report down. He had missed Emma's 2nd grade recital. He had missed her first solo. He had sent flowers to the school office, which was the kind of gesture that looks generous and means nothing. He thought about showing up as himself, James Calloway, in a suit, arriving in a car that cost more than most of his employees' annual salaries. He thought about what that arrival would look like to Emma. Not a father coming back. A performance. A powerful man making an entrance. That wasn't what she needed to see. What he needed Emma to see, if she saw him at all, was just a father. A man who showed up and sat in a chair and watched, without an agenda, without a camera crew, without anything except the desire to be present. So he bought the jacket. He took the bus. He sat in the back row. He wasn't ready to speak to her yet. He just needed to see her. He needed to know if the version of her father that still existed inside him matched anything real. He almost didn't recognize her when she walked on stage. Emma had grown. She was taller than he remembered, and her hair was longer now, pulled back with a blue clip he had never seen before. She carried her violin case with both hands, careful and serious, the way she had always been serious about things she cared about. She found her spot on the stage and looked out at the audience. James leaned forward slightly in his seat. He was 50 feet away. She was not looking for him. She didn't know to look for him. But her eyes moved across the crowd the way children's eyes do, searching for the one face that belongs to them. She found Laura in the 3rd row. Laura waved. Emma's whole face changed. A small, private smile, just for her mother. James sat back. He was aware of the exact shape of what he had thrown away. It wasn't abstract anymore. It was a 9-year-old girl smiling at the person who had stayed. Emma played the violin for 4 minutes. She played a piece he didn't know the name of. She made one small mistake near the end. He could see it in the brief tightening of her expression, and then she corrected herself and finished cleanly. The auditorium applauded. James applauded with everyone else. His hands were the last to stop. He sat in his seat after most people had left. The auditorium emptied around him. Folding chairs scraped. Kids ran through the aisles. A teacher started collecting paper programs from the floor. James didn't move. He was trying to decide what came next. He had not planned past this moment. Getting here had taken all of his planning. He had told himself he just wanted to see her. That was all. But sitting here now, having seen her, he understood that watching was not the same as arriving. It was its own kind of cowardice. He thought about the things he knew how to do. He knew how to acquire companies. He knew how to turn failing divisions into profitable ones. He knew how to read a room full of executives and find the exact pressure point that would move the conversation where he needed it to go. He did not know how to walk up to his 9-year-old daughter and tell her he was sorry. He picked up the paper program from his lap. Emma Calloway, Violin, Grade 3. He folded it carefully and put it in the breast pocket of the second-hand jacket. He was still sitting there when he heard footsteps slow near his row. He looked up. Emma stood in the aisle, violin case in both hands, looking at him. Not with recognition. With the particular directness of a child who notices things adults have stopped noticing. "You're still here," she said. "I am," James said. Emma looked at him for a moment. "Did you come to see someone?" "Yes," he said, truthfully. She tilted her head. "Who?" He had not prepared for this. He had prepared for nothing and everything had happened anyway, which was exactly how the most important moments of his life had always worked. "I came to hear the violin," he said. "You were very good." Emma considered this. "I made a mistake near the end." "I know. You fixed it." She looked at him with slightly narrowed eyes, the expression of a child recalibrating. "Most people didn't notice." "I noticed," he said. "It didn't matter. You kept going." She seemed to accept that. She shifted the violin case in her grip. "My mom's waiting outside," she said. "I just forgot my program." She reached past him to pick up a paper program from the seat beside his. Then she paused. "Are you okay?" she asked. The question hit him somewhere behind the sternum. "Getting there," he said. She nodded, satisfied with that answer in the way children are sometimes satisfied with honesty they don't fully understand. Then she walked back up the aisle toward the exit. James sat very still. He reached into his jacket and touched the folded program in his breast pocket. He had 1 week to decide what he was going to do. He called Laura the next morning. This was not easy. Their relationship since the divorce had been functional and frost-edged. Two people managing a shared responsibility with the minimum amount of friction and the minimum amount of warmth. Laura had every right to be cold. He had given her a great deal of practice. She answered on the 3rd ring. He told her he had been at the talent show. There was a long silence. "You were there?" she said. "Back row. I wasn't ready to make it complicated." Another silence. Then, "She was looking for you." Before she went on. James closed his eyes. "She didn't say so," Laura continued. "But I know her. She was looking." He didn't say anything for a moment. There was nothing to say that would make that smaller. "I want to come back properly," he said. "Not the way I did before, the planned events and the gifts. I want to just show up. Consistently. However long it takes for her to trust that." Laura was quiet for a long time. "James," she said. "I'm not the one you need to convince." He knew that. He had always known that. He had been using Laura as a buffer between himself and the harder conversation, the one he needed to have at 9-year-old height, in simple words, with no board of directors to manage and no exit strategy prepared. "I know," he said. "Can I come Saturday?" "I'll ask her," Laura said. Laura called back on Friday evening. Emma said yes. James arrived at Laura's house on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. He had almost worn the second-hand jacket again, then stopped himself. That had been a costume, a way of hiding. He wasn't hiding anymore. He wore ordinary clothes. Jeans, a simple sweater, boots. Nothing designed to impress. Laura opened the door and stepped aside without much ceremony. Emma was sitting at the kitchen table with a bowl of cereal and a library book. She looked up when James walked in. She looked at him the same way she had looked at him in the auditorium, directly, carefully recalibrating. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he said. He sat down across the table from her. No plan. No itinerary. No envelope with tickets to something impressive. Emma looked at him for a moment. Then she looked back at her book. Then back at him. "You were really at the show," she said. It wasn't a question. "Back row," he said. Worn-out jacket. Something moved across her face. "I thought I saw someone sitting there after," she said slowly. "I wasn't sure it was." She stopped. "It was me," he said. She looked down at the table. Her fingers turned a page of the library book without reading it. "Why didn't you just come?" she asked. Her voice was very even. 9 years old and completely controlled. It was the most heartbreaking thing he had ever heard. "Because I was scared," he said. "That's the honest answer." Emma looked up. In all of his imagining of this moment, James had not predicted that response would be the one to reach her. He had expected more walls. He had expected the kind of careful distance she had learned from 2 years of unanswered expectations. Instead, she looked at him with something that was almost recognition. "I get scared too sometimes," she said. "I know," he said. "You looked scared right before you went on stage. And then you went on anyway." She thought about that. "That's different." "It's a little different," he agreed. "But not completely." They sat with that for a moment. Laura moved quietly in the background, giving them room, staying close enough to matter. Emma pushed the cereal bowl to one side. She looked at the table. Then she said, quietly, not dramatically, just as a true thing, "You missed a lot." "I know," James said. "I'm not going to tell you I have a good reason. I don't. I made a choice every time I didn't come, and I made the wrong choice."
"I'm sorry, Emma."
She was quiet for a long time. The library book sat between them. A bird was making noise somewhere outside the kitchen window. "Are you going to keep coming?" she said. "Every time," he said. "For as long as you'll let me." She picked up her spoon. She stirred the remaining cereal slowly. "Okay," she said. Just that. "Okay." It was the most important word anyone had ever said to him. He came back the following Saturday. And the one after that. He didn't bring gifts. He didn't plan activities designed to be memorable. He showed up at 10 o'clock with nothing except himself, and he let Emma decide what the morning looked like. Sometimes they went to the park. Sometimes they sat at the kitchen table while she read and he drank coffee and they talked about nothing particularly important. He learned things he hadn't known. Her favorite color had changed from yellow to green. She didn't like mushrooms but would eat them if they were in soup. She had opinions about books that were more developed than most adults he knew. She still made that small expression, the brief tightening, when something didn't go perfectly, and then she corrected and kept going. He recognized that expression. It was his. 3 months in, Emma asked him once casually what he did for work. He told her simply, he ran a company, it was large, it took up too much of his time, and he was working on that last part. She nodded and went back to her book. The size of the company didn't interest her at all. That was the day he understood what the second-hand jacket had actually been for. Not to hide who he was from her. To strip away everything that didn't matter until only the true thing remained. A father. A chair. A child deciding whether to let him back in. She had let him back in. He showed up every Saturday and made sure she never had reason to wonder if he would. That was the only thing, in the end, that had ever actually been required of him.